Good morning, it's Radio Hafren, and we're on week 6 of the Rubbish Diet, and I'm delighted to have in the studio with me today Sue Newham, who's the Keep Wales Tidy Project Officer for North Powys. Sue, good morning, welcome to Radio Hafren.
Well, thank you very much for having me here.
We wanted to talk to you today about a particular problem, which is litter.
Of course, yes.
Okay, so first of all, tell us a little bit about your role at Keep Wales Tidy.
Keep Wales Tidy is a charity that operates across Wales and has a project officer in each county, and those project officers work with people who want to improve their environment in their community. So it could be picking up litter, it could be having a sort of a skip in a community to get rid of large waste, it could be planting or access to the countryside as well. So it covers quite a lot of different environmental strands.
Okay. Give us some figures about litter.
Yes, yeah. Well, many of us find litter quite an annoyance, maybe a minor annoyance, maybe a bit more of an annoyance, but actually at Keep Wales Tidy we're also very aware of the global effects of litter. I don't know if you've heard of the North Pacific garbage patch, have you?
Yes.
Yes. Well, the estimates on how big this garbage patch are do vary from 270,000 square miles to 5.8 million square miles, and it depends on the criteria they use for measuring it. Of course, it moves around in the sea, but even the smallest estimate is actually 33 times the size of Wales.
Right. You can't imagine that, can you? For anyone who doesn't know, this is an area of the sea, and as you say, it moves around, and this is just full of all kinds of rubbish, isn't it? Plastic bags, plastic containers.
Yes, a lot of it is plastic, and the thing is with the plastic that's there is that it breaks down in the sunlight and then breaks down into smaller pieces, and those smaller pieces break down into smaller pieces, and it ends up being a sort of plastic soup, which then of course can get into the food chain.
Yeah, and I mean, as well as it being in the food chain, it's an absolute nightmare, obviously, for sea wildlife.
Yes. Actually, I wanted to mention that if any of your viewers want to watch a short film that I found on the internet, they just need to type Midway Island film into Google, and that will show them a short film about a deserted island, except for seabirds, in the Pacific, really, really remote, where seabirds are really badly affected by this garbage patch.
One of the families who's taken the Rubber Diet Challenge with me, the Jarman family from Newtown, and Tom, who's 10, who's really keen on all this. And when I asked him why he was so keen on recycling, he just summed it up really nicely. His children really do. He said, if we don't do something, he said, there are going to be no green spaces and there are going to be no animals.
Yeah, I think that people don't necessarily realise the effect that litter has on wildlife, and sometimes very small creatures, but those small creatures are part of the food chain, and if we want to see creatures like otters and kingfishers, which we all enjoy seeing, then they need to feed on something, and so we need to protect the creatures at the bottom of the food chain. A lot of litter has got toxins in it, which it releases. I know you were mentioning that you've been to the landfill site in Llanidloes,
yes.
and one of the things that I saw there was a pool of toxic leachate, which is basically liquid that's come out of the rubbish, and it's highly toxic, and they have to treat it many, many times in order to make it safe to release. But of course, when rubbish isn't in a landfill site, it still gives off that toxic leachate. It's just that we don't really see the effects. So it gets into rivers, it gets into the soil, and small creatures are affected. Sometimes it can affect their ability to reproduce, or if they do have offspring, then they can be deformed. Well, if it's having that effect on tiny creatures, if those same things build up, that could affect us as well.
Absolutely. And you know, I came into this whole Rubbish Diet Challenge as a real novice and knowing absolutely nothing. And I had absolutely no idea until I went to the landfill site, okay, that this was one of the effects of rubbish. I had no idea that happened.
Yeah.
So it's a huge question, this, Sue, and I don't expect you to answer it completely, but what on earth can we do about this?
Well, one of the great things about living in Wales is that there are many people who really care about the environment, and Keep Wales Tidy works with thousands of volunteers who, some of them give up time for an individual project, but some of them are week in, week out, dealing with environmental problems. We have 33 litter champions in North Powys, and they're people who already hated litter, or were already picking litter up. But at Keep Wales Tidy, we can give them the equipment that will keep them safe. We can insure them and give them advice about how to keep safe. And they pick up litter around our towns and green spaces. I thought you'd be interested to know that in the first 3 years of the Tidy Towns project, which is part of what Keep Us Tidy does, our volunteers took 109,603 bags of rubbish out of the environment.
Okay.
And one day, just to sort of see how much rubbish that was, I emptied out a bag of litter and I laid it out over some grass, not too widespread, and I found out the rubbish from one bag can cover 3 square metres. So I multiplied that by the number of bags picked up by Keep Wales Tidy volunteers, and I found out that rubbish could completely cover the area of Bodnant Garden, which is National Trust property in North Wales, which covers 32.8 hectares of land. So I was just horrified with that. But it shows what a great job those people are doing.
Do you think this is a problem that's getting worse, or do you think it is getting better?
I think people's awareness is being raised, but I also feel that the recycling of packaging and also the responsibility of producers to cut down on packaging where they can, it perhaps needs to develop further.
Yeah.
You may not know that the annual bill for cleaning up litter and fly tipping in Wales is about £40 million a year. A year.
Now,
and
we were just talking off air, and you mentioned some of the things that we could spend that money on if we weren't just spending it on collecting litter.
Yes. Yeah, I did a bit of research, and obviously it's a rather rough estimate, but I found out that with £40 million you could build a children's hospital and run it for 3 years. That would be about £20 million. You could build 6 skate parks, about £2 million. You could build 3 cinemas, about £9 million, and 2 8-lane swimming pools, also about £9 million. So that makes a total of £40 million. But the interesting thing is, of course, that at the end of the year, if you had that 40 million again, you could do exactly the same the following year.
Absolutely. It is amazing. And as I say, I came to this as a complete novice, and I've learned so much about it. And it's when you hear figures like that, you do suddenly begin to realise that, well, this is ridiculous. We need to do something about this.
Yes, I think 40 million can be a figure that just goes over our heads because it's such a big number. We just don't really know what you could do with 40 million. But when you put it into context of what you could do with 40 million, it makes you realise that this, we can help ourselves by tackling this problem.
Absolutely. Sue, thanks for talking to us today. If anyone wants to get in touch with Keep Wales Tidy, how can they do that?
The Keep Wales Tidy website is www.keepwalestidy.org, and there will be contact details through there, so that if you want to get in touch with officers in any county or the headquarters, you'll be able to do that through the website.
Lovely. I'll keep all those details in the studio with me. I'll also put them on our Facebook page as well.
That's great.
Sue, thanks for coming in today. Good to talk to you.
Thank you very much.